A 17-year-old girl was preparing to attend school, but ultimately did not arrive for her classes. The police became involved and swiftly uncovered a series of disturbing facts and unexpected clues, which ultimately led to a shocking revelation. Although the case was resolved, the outcome incited outrage across the nation. Ellie G. was born on February 6, 2002, in the small British town of Call. She hailed from a large, close-knit family. In addition to her parents and older brother, many relatives lived nearby, fostering strong connections among them. From an early age, Ellie developed a profound affection for animals, particularly horses. Her parents frequently took her to the stables, and eventually, they decided to purchase a pony for her. This sparked her interest in horseback riding, and she began participating in various events, achieving notable success. Furthermore, she aspired to study psychology after high school and joined the mounted police. By early 2019, at the age of 17, Ellie was in her final year of school, where she had numerous friends due to her efforts to maintain harmonious relationships and avoid conflicts. That same year, a classmate asked Ellie out, and they quickly began dating. Having never been in a relationship before, Ellie was thrilled by this new experience. On May 3 RD, she woke up early, as usual, and began her preparations for school. Since she did not have any morning classes, she only needed to be at school by noon for a few lessons. She had arranged for a friend to pick her up, bid farewell to her parents as they left for work, and waited at home. A few hours later, Ellie sent a text to her friend to inform her that on that particular day, she chose to forgo attending school and remained at home, informing her friend not to visit. Her friend assumed that Ellie simply did not wish to attend a few classes and departed without her. Around 3:00 p.m., Ellie's father returned from work. Upon entering the kitchen, he was confronted with a horrifying scene. His daughter lay face down on the floor, surrounded by a large pool of blood. Initially, he speculated that Ellie might have fallen and injured herself or encountered some other mishap. However, upon closer inspection, he noticed blood splattered throughout the kitchen and a knife embedded in his daughter's neck, with her hands gripping the handle. He promptly called for an ambulance and attempted to administer first aid, following the operator's guidance, but Ellie exhibited no signs of life. It soon became apparent to her father that she was already deceased. When the paramedics arrived, they could only confirm her death, estimating that she had been gone for at least 4 hours. They also observed multiple stab wounds on her body, primarily concentrated around her neck. Ellie's parents were engulfed in disbelief, even as the police informed them of their daughter's murder. Her father found it difficult to accept the reality, remaining in a profound state of shock and convinced that Ellie's fate was merely a tragic accident. Her body was subsequently transferred to the medical examiners, who uncovered further details regarding the incident. In addition to the 13 stab wounds, they identified signs of strangulation on her neck, indicating that the assailant had initially attempted to kill her in that manner before resorting to the kitchen knife. They also discovered several defensive wounds, suggesting that Ellie had fought back with great desperation. While forensic experts conducted their examination of the crime scene, the police initiated their investigation. They summoned Ellie's parents to the station and inquired whether they were aware of anyone who might have wished harm upon their daughter. After exchanging glances, both parents could only recall one individual, Thomas, Ellie's boyfriend. Her mother elaborated that Ellie and Thomas had begun dating merely a few months prior, and initially, Ellie was elated, as she had never experienced a relationship before. Thomas appeared to be an exemplary young man, an outstanding student, an athlete, and a member of the school's rugby team. However, the dynamics of their relationship deteriorated rapidly. Thomas increasingly demanded Ellie's time, becoming more insistent as the days progressed. Conversely, Ellie found herself unable to devote the attention he sought, as she needed to concentrate on her final examinations and care for her ponies. As time passed, Thomas's behavior escalated. He would express anger over her perceived lack of interest in spending time together and exhibited controlling tendencies. He inundated her with calls and texts throughout the day, growing irate when she could not reply immediately. Ellie's parents had always harbored reservations about Thomas being a suitable partner for her. They noted that he often remained silent during his visits to their home, which they found peculiar given Ellie's outgoing nature. They anticipated that the relationship would not endure, and their instincts proved correct. Just a few months into their relationship, Ellie began contemplating a breakup as Thomas's behavior increasingly unsettled her. She also came to the realization that her primary focus needed to be on her examinations and her college aspirations. Ultimately, she made the decision to end the relationship, breaking up with him on May 2 just one day prior to her tragic death. The police subsequently interviewed Ellie's friends, who provided additional insights regarding the breakup. Ellie had confided in them that Thomas was struggling to accept the separation. He persistently attempted to persuade her to reconsider, frequently calling and requesting to meet, but Ellie declined to engage in discussions about it. Their mutual acquaintances noted a significant change in Thomas's demeanor following the breakup. On the same day, he took to social media to express that the preceding days had been exceptionally challenging for him, as he was not only coping with the end of his relationship with Ellie, but also dealing with his father's cancer diagnosis and the recent loss of his aunt. He concluded his post by stating that he was finding it difficult to manage his emotions and intended to seek assistance from the school counselor. After seeing his post, some of Thomas's friends reached out to provide support. During their conversations, they observed that he appeared genuinely distressed. However, when the police inquired whether they believed Thomas could have harmed Ellie, his friends were incredulous and firmly asserted that it was unthinkable. With this information, investigators opted to question Thomas, but first, they reviewed Ellie's phone and found that Thomas had sent her a message that morning requesting a meeting. They then proceeded to Thomas's residence to inquire about his whereabouts that morning. Thomas explained that his mother had driven him to school, but he was too overwhelmed by the breakup and his other issues to attend classes, so he chose to wait instead. Until his mother departed, he walked to the bus stop and then returned home. On his way, he sent a message to one of his teachers to inform them that he would not be attending school that day. According to Thomas, he did not leave the house afterward. Instead, he spent the remainder of the day completing homework and relaxing. During their conversation, he inquired about Ellie's well-being, to which the officers informed him of her death. Following their discussion with Thomas, the investigators proceeded to speak with his mother, where they encountered an intriguing development. She confirmed that she had dropped him off at school that morning, but upon her return home later, Thomas was not there. The police revisited Thomas to clarify the situation. He explained that he had not wanted his mother to know he had skipped school for the entire day, so he concealed himself in the closet and waited until she left for work. During this conversation, the officers observed fresh scratches on Thomas's face. When questioned about their origin, Thomas stated that he had inflicted them upon himself. However, the investigators remained doubtful, especially since the medical examiners had determined that Ellie had fought back during the attack. These injuries could very well have been sustained during that struggle. The police also interviewed all of Ellie's neighbors, and one neighbor provided a noteworthy observation. That morning, they had seen a man approaching Ellie's residence. However, due to the distance, the neighbor was unable to discern the man's face or any other distinguishing features, only offering a vague description of his attire. The police then sought to verify Thomas's alibi by examining the GPS data from his phone, which confirmed that he returned home after leaving school. However, what they uncovered next was quite alarming. At 10:50 a.m., Thomas's account was contradicted when his phone disconnected from his home Wi-Fi. Just 3 minutes later, it was detected moving towards Ellie's residence, where it remained for approximately 1 hour. At 11:51 a.m., the phone began its return journey to Thomas's home, reconnecting to the Wi-Fi shortly thereafter. The police determined that it would have been unfeasible for Thomas to traverse the distance between his home and Ellie's on foot in merely 3 minutes, as he resided in a neighboring village several miles away. Subsequently, they examined surveillance footage along the route and identified a silver Ford Focus registered to Thomas's parents. The vehicle's movements corresponded with the phone's location data, leading investigators to deduce that Thomas was likely driving. The footage also captured the same car departing from Thomas's residence and returning just 18 minutes later. Although the investigators could not locate any footage that definitively showed Thomas's whereabouts during that brief interval, they were able to narrow down the general vicinity where he may have stopped, as it appeared he had only been there for about a minute. The police suspected he might have been disposing of evidence. Their suspicions were confirmed when officers discovered a trash bag in a small wooded area containing blood-stained rags and an apron. With this evidence, the police secured a warrant to search Thomas's home and requested that he provide the clothing he had worn that morning. Thomas claimed he had placed them in the washing machine, prompting the officers to seize the garments. At 10:50 a.m., Thomas's account was contradicted when his phone disconnected from his home Wi-Fi. Just 3 minutes later, it was detected moving towards Ellie's residence, where it remained for approximately 1 hour. At 11:51 a.m., the phone began its return journey to Thomas's home, reconnecting to the Wi-Fi shortly thereafter. The police determined that it would have been unfeasible for Thomas to traverse the distance between his home and Ellie's on foot in merely 3 minutes, as he resided in a neighboring village several miles away. Subsequently, they examined surveillance footage along the route and identified a silver Ford Focus registered to Thomas's parents. The vehicle's movements corresponded with the phone's location data, leading investigators to deduce that Thomas was likely driving. The footage also captured the same car departing from Thomas's residence and returning just 18 minutes later. Although the investigators could not locate any footage that definitively showed Thomas's whereabouts during that brief interval, they were able to narrow down the general vicinity where he may have stopped, as it appeared he had only been there for about a minute. The police suspected he might have been disposing of evidence. Their suspicions were confirmed when officers discovered a trash bag in a small wooded area containing blood-stained rags and an apron. With this evidence, the police secured a warrant to search Thomas's home and requested that he provide the clothing he had worn that morning. Thomas claimed he had placed them in the washing machine, prompting the officers to seize the garments. Detectives believed that it would appear as though she had orchestrated her own disappearance, leaving no suspicion directed towards him. They also recalled a message Ellie had sent to her friend, indicating that she would not be attending school and requesting not to be picked up. It was determined that this message was sent posthumously, suggesting that Thomas had accessed her iPhone, unlocked it with Ellie's fingerprint, and sent the message himself. It appeared that he aimed to delay the discovery of her body. However, this was not the culmination of Thomas's efforts to conceal his actions. After disposing of his clothing in the washing machine and discarding a bag of incriminating evidence in the woods, he encountered a neighbor and solicited a ride to school. There, he participated in his remaining classes, engaged in conversation with friends, and even visited the school nurse. He expressed to her the emotional turmoil he had been experiencing in recent days. Concerned for his well-being, the nurse contacted his mother, who subsequently took him home. Later that day, Thomas shared a post on social media regarding his breakup with Ellie and the various challenges he was facing at that time, all while Ellie's body remained undiscovered. The police interpreted these actions as part of his strategy to establish an alibi. Within a few hours, law enforcement had compiled sufficient evidence, leading to Thomas's arrest on suspicion of murder by that evening. During the interrogation, he persistently denied any involvement, and the case was ultimately forwarded to court. The initial hearing occurred on August 29, 4 months following the murder, at which point Thomas unexpectedly altered his narrative and confessed before the judge. Thomas's account of killing Ellie included a significant twist. He claimed that he had visited her home that morning to study for their upcoming exams. During their study session, an argument ensued, after which he asserted that his memory became hazy. He remembered attempting to strangle her, but insisted that the details of his subsequent actions were unclear. Prosecution, however, found Thomas's narrative unconvincing, highlighting several critical inconsistencies. Firstly, Ellie had distanced herself from him, a fact well known to her friends and family, making the notion of them studying together implausible, especially since her friend was scheduled to pick her up shortly. Furthermore, Thomas's assertion of memory loss contradicted his actions, as he spent an hour attempting to clean the crime scene. Additionally, he placed the murder weapon in Ellie's hand, seemingly trying to frame her for the act. He then proceeded to dispose of evidence, fabricate an alibi at school, and wash his clothes. Given these factors, the court ruled in favor of the prosecution, and in November 2019, Thomas was convicted of murder. Prior to sentencing, he delivered a final statement in which he apologized to Ellie's family and expressed sincere remorse for his actions. However, a significant consideration arose at the conclusion of the trial. Thomas was only 17 at the time of the murder, which influenced his sentencing. The judge imposed a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 12 years, along with an additional 5 years due to the crime's brutality, indicating that Thomas could potentially be released at that time. The verdict delivered to a 34-year-old individual ignited significant outrage, not only from the victim's family, but also among numerous citizens nationwide. Many were perplexed by the notion that a person guilty of premeditated murder could receive such a minimal sentence. Despite the widespread public discontent, there was little recourse available to alter the court's ruling. The father of the victim expressed his concern that this sentence endangers other women, as he believes the convicted individual, Thomas, poses a potential threat to society upon his release. He characterizes Thomas as a psychopath who should remain incarcerated for life. This perceived injustice motivated Ellie's parents to commit the following years to reforming existing laws. In 2021, they achieved a significant milestone with the enactment of Ellie's Law, which permits juvenile murderers to be sentenced to a maximum of 27 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Regrettably, this legislative change does not apply to Thomas, who was sentenced under previous laws. The only concession made was a stipulation for Thomas to undergo comprehensive therapy following his release, with the hope of preventing future offenses. Since then, Ellie's parents have been actively organizing events in her memory, inviting children to ride her horses. According to her mother, these activities provide some solace in their grief, as horseback riding was Ellie's most cherished passion. Please share your thoughts on this narrative in the comments section, and if you appreciated the video, kindly press the like button. Thank you for watching.